Well, hello everyone, and welcome to The View from Laura's Window, a podcast where life is explored through positive Christian thoughts. And when I say window, I'm referring to the view or perspective of life and how we think, act, and react. You know, everyone has a window, and yes, every window has a different view. And sometimes our view may not always be clear, and sometimes it may not always be focused. But I hope through this podcast and a positive Christian mindset, you will have a much better perspective. So open up those windows, your hearts, and your thoughts to the encouraging view from Laura's perspective. Well, hey guys, welcome to the podcast. I'm Laura, your host, and today's Tuesday. And today my guest is Susannah Akers. And Susannah is the mother of 3 grown children, 2 daughters-in-law, 1 son-in-law, and a grandmother of 4. She has earned 3 degrees from the Tennessee Tech University, a BS in Child Development, an MA in Educational Psychology, and an EDS in Educational Psychology. She worked as a school counselor for Putman County Schools for 10 years, as well as 1 year for the Metro Schools in Nashville, Tennessee. She is currently writing her second book, which is the sequel to her first, documenting her battle with alcohol. She also has a blog on SusannahAkers.com titled Akers of Hope. You can find her on all of the social media, and I will add that in at the end and on the show notes. So I welcome her today, and I hope that you get something out of this. If you know somebody that is going through a struggle with alcohol and battling that struggle, please listen in on this, and hopefully it will help. Well, hey friends, and welcome. Today is Tuesday all day long. And yes, it is Tuesday's Talk Day. Or wait, is it Tuesday Talk? Tuesday's Talks? Tuesday Talks? Oh, well, whichever it is, I'll figure it out. Anyway, it is a place where we can get up close and personal with each other in a no judgment zone and talk about all the stuff that hinders our view, as well as ways to clear the view for a more focused perspective. And our guests will share their encouraging stories, thoughts, and ideas for us as the listener to learn from and resonate with. And yes, faith-based conversations are encouraged because a life with faith is a life with purpose. So let's get started. How are you doing, Susannah?
I'm doing well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing good. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about your story. I know you have one. Many people do have stories, but I've been following your son, Judahandthelion, and his music for a good while now. And his music speaks of you a lot. And I wanted to know if you could share a little bit about yourself with the listeners and a little bit about who you are.
Okay. I do want to thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share. Basically, I grew up in Cookeville, Tennessee, since I was 8 months old. My parents were godly, great people. We were in the church pretty much any time the doors were open. They were loving and caring and providing and just good people. Loved Jesus, loved the kids. My dad was a very hard worker, entrepreneur. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. Had a very lovely childhood. Met my now ex-husband, but met him when I was 13 at Cookeville Junior High. And we were pretty much together except for 1 year in high school. We broke up 1 year, but we were together since we were 13. Started college at Tennessee Tech. in 1985, fall of 1985, and we got married the following year. I got a degree in child development, and my dad agreed to let us marry at 19 as long as I finished college and didn't have a baby before I finished college. That was the stipulation. So basically, my first son, Eli, came. He actually came 8 weeks early, and I had planned it out exactly. But he came a week before graduation, and he was tiny. He weighed 4 pounds and 4 ounces.
Oh, wow.
When we took him home, we were 22 years old. He weighed 3 pounds and 15 ounces. And when he was 3 weeks old, he actually coded. He died for 25 seconds. They helicoptered him to Vanderbilt in Nashville, where he stayed for a week, and they never found out what was wrong with him. It was sort of a miracle that we even, kind of figured out there was something wrong. But so then he was born in 1989, and then we were praying, honestly, and fasting about when we were going to have our next baby. And I drank Diet Mountain Dew all day for 3 days. We were fasting for 3 days. Wow. And I was already pregnant with Judah. It may explain some of the crazy in him. But he came along 18 months after Eli. When he was 4 months old, his lung collapsed. He had massive pneumonia, and he had to be life flighted to Vanderbilt as well, and was there for a week. But he had RSV, and anyway, it was traumatic to me at the time. So 22 months after that, we were again considering having another baby. We wanted him close. We wanted him close, and Annie came along, and she ended up having some trauma too. She drank some cough medicine and had to, spend the night in intensive care. But my doctor told me that, I was going to have great teenagers because I had been through enough with them as babies. And yes. You know what? And I just said, you know what? I received that. And they were great teenagers. I had a wonderful marriage. My husband he was the best. I always said he was like a second mom. He would get up in the night after I quit nursing and, feed the babies, and he's just the best dad. I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years. The kids did everything. Oh goodness. They played travel ball, and Annie rode horses, and we were always just everywhere. And Eli was a good little athlete and always, did really well, but Judah was an exceptional athlete. And honestly could have played basketball or baseball in college, Eli, or golf. Eli could have probably played at a junior college or something, but Judah was always better. And one thing that I love to talk about Eli was he's never, ever, ever been jealous of Judah. He's always been, and it's very unusual. He's only 18 months older, and he's such a great support. He's such the perfect big brother. And
what's the age differences between
18 months? 18 months between Judah and Eli, and then 22 months between Judah and Annie.
They're all probably pretty close then?
Very close. They're still good. Very, 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 very close.
My two, I have two, a daughter and a son, and there's 4 years difference. So they're probably not as close as what yours are.
Yeah, well, my brother actually is 4 years younger than me, and my sister's 4 years older. And so we weren't super close. My sister, took good care of me. She just, the high school back then was just 3 years. So we were never, in school together, but she was wonderful. She actually died in 2018 of January.
I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, it was traumatic, but yeah, so Judah, I made them all take piano lessons. I kind of forced them to. I was forced to when I was a kid. I hated it bad. But they took from our music, our worship leader at our church, and then they liked it okay. And when Judah was in third grade, his music teacher, they had a little chorus, and his music teacher came to me and said, he's special. he's got a gift. And he said his athletic ability is part of what makes him a great musician. And I didn't understand that. I didn't know athletes were musicians. So he did a little lip sync of Jesus Freak in front of the whole school, Toby Mac or DC Talk or whoever that was. And so anyway, he got to high school and was taking IB music and was in the chorus and all those things as he was excelling in sports. And the same music teacher was now at the high school. And so he came to me one day and he said, he's got it. He's got it. And he's special. And about that time, he got offered, about a year later, he got offered a baseball scholarship at Belmont, which is a music school, as you know, here in Nashville. And so that's kind of how his career with Judah and the Lion got going. He thought he would be a worship leader. He really, that's kind of what we thought he would do. But of course, he met Nate and Brian one day at the bell tower, and it just clicked. So it's special. It's a special group. I'll go into that more later. But then, and Annie is just, just so special too. She is a stay-at-home mom with 3 kids. Eli now is a CPA in Knoxville, and his wife Katie, which was his high school sweetheart. They both went to UT Knoxville. She's a speech pathologist. She was in the schools, but they've had a little baby, Elizabeth, and she's staying home with her. So that's just lovely. And Judah married Lindsay, and I'm very, 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 very blessed with just the most awesome in-laws. They all love Jesus. They all love my children.
How many grandchildren do you have?
I have 4 now. Yeah.
4.
So Judah has 2 dogs, Joshy and Scooby, and they're white huskies, and they look just like him when he had that white hair and blue eyes. And
they're
Lindsay
beautiful. I've seen their
pictures.
Yeah.
They are. And Lindsay dotes on those dogs, and they love those little puppies. And so they're real sweet. And then Annie had 3 babies in 3 years, just like me, except I think hers are 2 months closer than mine. She had Hensley in 16. He is a spitting image of his dad, Jesse. And Jesse he's an entrepreneur. I don't understand what he does. It's some kind of web design marketing stuff with startups, but now he's actually working with Amazon doing the same thing. And Annie stays home with the babies. They met at Bethel in Redding, California. Annie went to ministry school out there, and that's where they met. And he's lovely. I've got the most wonderful in-laws. But he had Hensley in 16, and then Eden came 18 months later. And then they thought they were going to be finished, but got a surprise and are so thrilled. Elliot came May the year, she's a year old. She came when Hensley turned 3. So exactly 3 kids in 3 years. So yeah, so wow. I have 4 grandbabies, and they're adorable and just
aren't they the best? I have 2 grandsons.
Oh,
so you're doubly blessed.
Well, I am. And so I don't know, Judah's liable to have, 4 or 5, who knows, but yeah,
what about you?
What about me? Okay. So when Eli was a freshman, I volunteered. I taught Bible studies and taught Sunday schools, and ran the nursery and did all those things in church, volunteered just like crazy everywhere. And when Eli was 15, I had volunteered there at Cookville High School in the attendance office and still continued to do that. But it's a very long story and I won't go into it, but kind of miraculously, I went back to school and got a master's and an EDS, which is an educational specialist degree. It's kind of between a master's and a PhD in educational psychology. And chose the school counseling route and started a job at a middle school as a school counselor in 2005. And I did that up until right at the beginning of 2015 when my addiction started. It's kind of when my world started crumbling. without going into much detail, we just kind of had a falling apart, and my husband and I just kind of out of nowhere. And again, I don't, he was such a good husband. I don't want to slam him. It got bad real quick, but, because of my drinking,
Yes.
It's a rough disease to battle. I can tell you that. And I have, deep respect for people that have, completely recovered. And I certainly will. I know I will. I know that's my story, but,
Yes.
so we were separated, and remember, we'd been together since we were 13. And so, on day or two before Thanksgiving, I got my first DUI. I actually, was driving to Georgia to stay with some friends so I wouldn't drink. I had attended my very first AA meeting the night before, and I was in IOP at Bradford there in Cookeville. IOP is intensive outpatient rehab kind of, and had taken FMLA leave from school. I was only working part-time. And my principal at the time, I was at the alternative school, was just amazing. His name's JoJo, and he was great. And the superintendent was just, that's not what they call him anymore. But anyway, she was amazing, and everybody was supportive. And so I got this DUI the day before Thanksgiving, and I went to rehab in Alabama. I needed it. And I wanted to quit. I wanted to be done with it. I so wanted to be done with it. But, so
is this when it all started?
No, it started, in 2008. I took a position at Cookeville High School, and I was the standalone senior counselor. And anybody that's had children that are seniors understand what a stressful time that is. And I had 500 kids every year. I was there 4 years. And I was expected to get to know them, to write all their letters of recommendation, to schedule all of 500 of them, to get the low ones the help they needed to graduate and, get work or go to community college or whatever, and to get the high ones into Vanderbilt or Harvard or, wherever else. And it was, and then I was in charge of class rank, which sounds like that wouldn't be a big deal, but it is, when you look at valedictorian and and kids' grades and all of that. And it was stressful. Now, I consider myself a good counselor. I love children, and I love the being with kids part and hanging with the kids and getting to know them, but it's kind of impossible to get to know 500 kids.
Yeah.
And then I was responsible for the graduation rate. These kids have had 12 years of counselors and teachers and whatever, but at the end of the day, my name would be in the paper about the graduation rate or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I considered it the perfect storm. I had a stressful job, and I had had gastric bypass surgery in 2005, and it kind of caught up with me because you can't really eat. It's hard to eat. Your belly just gets full really quick. So drinking, we had drank normally for years. I mean, we had occasionally overdrank or whatever, but it was not a problem. But I had my first binge in 2008, and it's just where I started drinking and didn't stop for a couple of days. It was only one that year, but as the years progressed, and then when Britt left, and he wanted to help me, he didn't know how to help me. It's a peculiar disease. And I don't even know how to describe it. And a lot of folks don't believe it's a disease, but the AMA says it is. So yeah. I believe that it is. And certainly I've walked it out. But I think he was frustrated because he saw me do so much. He saw me accomplish everything I set out to do. I got those 2 degrees in 2 years. I had straight A's. I'm very much a perfectionist. And so I think that was very frustrating for him. And so, he left, and I went off to that rehab, and I was coming back from Birmingham, and I was driving by myself, and I had, let's just say we had words, and it was not lovely at all. And I started drinking again immediately. And So 2 days before Thanksgiving, I got a DUI in Cobb County, Georgia. And then 2 days before Christmas, he was still gone. We were still separated. 2 days before Christmas, I got my second one in Cookeville. I went back to rehab, and it was a better experience for me. And I thought I was going to be okay, but I just kept relapsing. And
were the relapses because of things that were going on that but I was doing it before, you know what I mean? But it got worse. When he left, it definitely got worse for me. Again, not his fault. It's a disease. And I heard somebody say yesterday, it's not your fault, but now you have to be responsible. I have to take responsibility for my actions, but it is a disease. And no more than if somebody had cancer that came back, you wouldn't fault them. Or if somebody had diabetes, you just don't. Basically, I have an allergy. I mean, in AA, that's what they say. You have an allergy to alcohol. And, not everybody has this allergy. If I'm allergic to bees and you're not, they can sting me and I can die, and they can sting you and you just get stung. So it's just complicated. It's very, very, very complicated. So I went back to rehab, and then one day, and he was still gone, I was standing at my window at our home where we raised our kids. And I just thought, no one is telling you what to do. No one, you can quit or not. You can do whatever or not. And I just quit. I just stopped. And my Brit ended up coming back. I stayed sober for pushing a year. That's a good while, isn't it?
Yeah, it was a decent amount. And then we started, they call it your alcoholic brain, just starts playing tricks on you, and you think, I can handle this. I can go back to drinking normal. I did it for years. And so we started drinking again. And anyway, it got bad again. It's just repetitive. I don't need to go into all the details. I ended up going back to rehab again. He left again for the last time, like 2 days after my 50th birthday, which was in January of 2017. And then we ended up divorcing, and it's not all my fault, but I'm not going to bash him. He was a great husband and a great father for a lot of years, and it just got ugly.
So things like this just kept going on, and then something happened on April the 6th of last year. Can you share what happened on that day and how you were feeling?
I was living alone in Franklin. I had moved to Nashville because I was not doing well by myself in Cookeville. And you can hear that in some of Judah's music. I was alone. And I think my fear, and I didn't know I had this fear, was about being alone. And there's some psychology to all that. And I'll share the information from my blog. You can read it in my blog. I know you have. But with my dad and my mom, there was some trauma there that I didn't even realize was there. But I never thought I would be alone. I mean, Britt loved me. He loved me hard. He was a good husband, and he always loved me, and I always knew he loved me. And I really am I'm a words girl. I'm a words of affirmation girl. And if he would just tell me everything was going to be okay, even after 9/11 and our business kind of struggled, I was okay with it because I knew he would always be there, and he was my best friend. And so, all of that was very traumatic for me. And listen, I would have probably left me way before he left me. So I don't fault him in that. But again, I'm not going to, anyway, he played a part in it too. But, so I was on probation from my, I got a third DUI, September 10th of 2017. It was 2 days after my divorce was final. Judah had sold out the Ryman on the 8th and 9th of September, and I stayed downtown Nashville with a friend. And on the Sunday following the Saturday concert, she got up and went to the Titans game. and I got up and started drinking. And I had just taken the auto lock off my car. I had kept it on there even after I didn't have to have it on there, just for my protection. Mm-hmm. And I had literally taken it off 2 days before, thinking I was good, which was so ridiculous because I'd just gotten divorced. I mean, and I didn't want the divorce. On the top of the divorce, it says, and I asked them to put it there to let it be known that I did not want the divorce, that I was doing this, for him. And so I got the DUI. It was in Smith County, Tennessee, which is a really small county here in Tennessee, really small. But so I was they gave me probation for a year, and, and then I had to have the blower on my car again and all of that. And so I was a month away from being dismissed in January, and I had a relapse, and my mom came. My mom is a rock star, and I've got several rock stars in my life, and
we got to have those, don't we?
I do. Yeah. I've got such Peggy and Amber, and I've just and Donna, and I've just Lynn. I've got just some amazing folks that just don't leave me. Yeah, they battle for me, but and Sarah, I can't name them all, but Edwina, I just have some really great people in my life, and so Mom came to pick me up, and I had not checked in with probation. I have to check in with them. I can't remember now if it was once a week or once a month. I think it was once a month. And so I hadn't been, and I made her take me, and I was drunk. And so I violated that day. And when you violate probation, generally your first violation, they'll make you stay in jail. They'll put you, when you violate probation, you could have to go complete your sentence in jail. So my sentence was going to be up February 1st. And so he could have put me in jail for those 23 days, and I would have been finished February 1st. My probation would have been over, which in hindsight would have been a much better plan. But they let me go. I agreed to go to AA every day and all of this stuff. And at that point, and you'll read in my book that I hated AA. I had always been forced to go from somebody from rehab or sober living or from the court. And so I really resented it, and I pretty much picked it apart. And there are some issues with it. But so I was doing that, and that's when I actually wrote my book, was between January and that April. I went every day, and I wrote 8 hours a day every day, and it just kind of spilled out of me. But on April 6th, I got a public intox in Franklin. I was drinking by myself. You don't get those if you're with people, but I always drink by myself. I very rarely drink with people because, first of all my friends won't drink with me. I mean, I have very good support.
Well,
they're not. I don't.
Yeah, you would need that. Yes.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah. So, but I'm in Franklin down here by myself, and I have friends here. I have a good church. Gosh, I have an amazing church. I go to the Belonging, and it's amazing. And I'm in a Connect group, and so I had support here, but I did not reach out. And so anyway, I get this public intox, and they take me to the hospital, and they realize I'm on probation. So they take me to Carthage, and I go before the judge, and my PO, my probation officer is mad. He's so mad at me. And there's a girl too, Jenna and Daniel, and such good people. I mean, they had been very supportive of me, and but
just because he had so much faith in you, was he just?
No, I don't know what it was. I think because he had kind of let me off on that first violation.
Okay.
I think he kind of felt guilty about that. We had to go before the judge and ask, and normally they put you in jail for a few days after your first violation, and he had kind of trusted me.
Okay.
And so I think I had violated his trust. I just, so they take me to jail. I'm super nervous about it. I don't know how much you want me to go into the jail experience right now, but he I ended up getting 45 days, which was devastating. I just couldn't believe it. And so I do those 45 days, and they want me to go to Teen Challenge for a year. And it's something my children had wanted me to do, especially my daughter, because my kids have fought this. This has been terribly hard on them. But they just want me to be well. They just want their mom back. They had this perfect, great mom, and then it's just like they lost us both. And so I went to jail for those 45 days, and those first 45 days were, it was traumatic and all of that, but I got out, and so I was supposed to go to Teen Challenge, and I never really wanted to go to Teen Challenge. Teen Challenge is a wonderful program, and a lot of people get well there. And I'm not going to go into reasons why I didn't want to go, but I had my reasons, and I think I don't know, subconsciously I sabotaged that pretty much. I think I read in your blog, you had like 3 days. Was this the same treatment? You had 3 days left to go before you started treatment. No, I was supposed to go. I had a week to get there. Okay. Once they let me out, it was like a week I had to get there. And, of course I got drunk and, didn't go. I did not go. And so my PO knew it. And so I actually ended up in the hospital, and the Cookville police picked me up from there and then transported me back to Carthage, to Smith County. And so I got there and got in front of the same judge, and the judge is a Christian, and I feel like he's probably a good guy, but they were getting pretty tired of me, and oh gosh, I forget even what they call it. The verbiage. They were going to make me stay the rest of my sentence in jail, and so it had moved my probation. That was for a year. Once I violated it, they give you another year, and so I was going to be there for a minute. And after we calculated the days up and did all of that, it looked like I was going to be there until November 10th. But I told him, I cried, and I was broken at this point. The first time I went in, I was not good, but this time I was broken. And I know, you wonder what the low point was. I can't tell you. I've had so many rock bottoms. I can't. Oh, my hair's weird. I can't even. I don't know. I'm divorced. I lost jobs. I broke my mom's heart. I broke my friends' hearts. I certainly broke my children's hearts. And it's just a weird thing, because nobody loved their kids more than me. Nobody. There's no mama in the world that loved their children more than I. Right. But that wasn't enough. It's an addiction, and it's just. It has nothing to do with how much you love your family or your husband or whatever.
True, because if you can do it for yourself.
That's finally where I am. Actually, I have a therapist, a wonderful therapist right now, and he told me that actually this week. He said, in your voice, this is the first time I've ever heard
That's great.
You be internal with this, and this not be an external thing where you're wanting your kids back, or you want your job, or you want your husband, or you're trying to please your mom, or, so, and it's just difficult. It's just a weird thing, but, that's what they call it. They call it laying you down. The judge laid me down, and that meant I had to finish out my sentence in jail.
Oh, wow.
He said, but I said, well, I'm wanting help, and I think Teen Challenge would still take me, and I'll go straight from here, bed to bed, if you'll let me. So I wrote Teen Challenge a letter of apology, and they accepted, and were going to take me. And he had told me that these two women were going to help me and to follow them out of the court. So I followed them out, thinking that within a week I would be at rehab. They never contacted me. They never got with me. They never did anything. I never heard from them. I reached out more than once, and so basically I'm stuck there in jail. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't even pray. I couldn't even pray. And I pray all the time. I'm a constant conversation with Jesus. I love Jesus. I never once in any of this walked away from Jesus. I never said why. Well, I did say why. I mean, I did. I wondered why I didn't get, healed back in 2008. I mean, I've prayed that with the relapse that I've had is, Lord, why did I not, could I not do this in 2008? And he simply said to me in my spirit, Susannah, that's not your story. And this is your story. And, and I say this in my blog and in my first book, I don't know that you can equate it to disobedience, but I did have, there is some amount of choice in it. It's hard to rectify all of it, but,
right.
Just like Jonah, without his disobedience, there's no Jonah in the Bible, and so it's not like I'm unique in that I've struggled and haven't completely gotten over it. David struggled even after, but I can tell you emphatically, I never didn't love Jesus. And so when I'm in jail, this time on April 6th, of course I'm detoxing bad. I've got tremors real bad. I can barely walk, and I'm in a cell with one other girl, and it's disgusting. It's what my second book is going to be about. But I couldn't even pray. I couldn't even pray. And
the words just wouldn't come.
Couldn't. I don't know. I've never been like that. I haven't never been like that before or after. I just couldn't. I was just so broken. I couldn't even say, help me, Jesus. I couldn't do anything. And
so could this have been one of your rock bottoms?
One of them, oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. But I remember a couple of days in standing at the little bitty window. It's about this narrow and about, yay high. And you're looking out on another brick building that's housing other inmates. And, anyway, at least we had a window. And I remember saying, oh, Lord, help. I don't know what to do. And he simply said in my spirit, Susannah, I told you to be still. I told you to be still, that I've got you. And you, and I do. I try to control everything. I'm very much a perfectionist and very much a control freak as far as like, I just want to fix everything.
And this you can't fix.
No.
So this is something that, yeah.
And it's been very frustrating to me because I've always been able to fix everything. If I work hard enough or I go at it hard enough, it's been,
right.
It's been possible. So at that point, oh goodness.
Well, there's a point where I read that when you were serving time, you received a Bible.
Mm-hmm. So my mom and my Bible study leader, Edwina, gave a bunch of Bibles to the jail. There were some Bibles there, but they were amplified and ripped up, and they would give them to you. But it was. I have here. Here's my Bible. My Bible I've had since '97, and
wow.
Every page looks like, that.
Oh, I see highlights in the notes.
That's not even it's so marked up.
It's personal to you.
Well, it's personal, and I can find anything I want in here. I can,
right.
There's nothing I can't find. There's a good concordance. I don't know. It's yours. Anyways, well, it's mine and it's me, and it's got everything in here where I prayed for my kids, where when Eli was sick, just stuff. And so,
and that's the one you didn't have.
I did not have that one. No. And I know the word. I love the word of God. It's Jesus, it's Jesus. And, the word became flesh and I know the word. I don't know chapter and verse always, right. But if I go to my Bible, I can find it because, I've got it all marked up. So this is the little Bibles they gave in their Message translation. I assume thinking that the inmates, this will be easier for them to read and comprehend. So it took me a few weeks and they gave me one. And So not only does it not have a concordance or not have, any of my stuff marked at all, of course, it's doesn't read the same. John 3:16 does not read, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. And so I'm wanting to look up stuff. I'm wanting to look up, God hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but of love and power and a sound mind. I'm going to find all of this and, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not into your own understanding, and all the ways acknowledge him and he will direct your path. So I know all these verses and I've got all this in my heart. And I really couldn't find anything. I mean, because it's this weird message Bible, and but little by little by little, it just all started. And and I ended up marking up this Bible. This is going to end up being a very, very, very special Bible to me. I open it up now, and I find my little grocery list. That my peanut butter and my stuff is in here, and my little Debbie's and ramen noodles and whatever. But the most significant thing, it was just like God showed up. It was, a day in jail for me. Anyway, I would get up and clean and whatever. And then 96 times around the tables were a mile. And I walked 2 to 5 miles every day. Mm-hmm. And I would sing, I'm going to sing in the middle of the storm. And I would sing that, and I would sing the goodness of God and just all this stuff, all of this fresh stuff from Bethel Music. And, and then I would sing all old songs, and I had to sing under my breath, and pretty much nobody got up. I mean, pretty much they stayed in bed all day long. There was nothing to do. You had to self-motivate. I read 135 books, I think, in those 141 days, something like that. Not good books. Yeah. But so I felt the Lord, he has, spoken to me about a ministry and about, how this is my story, and it is what it is. And at the end of the day, this is going to be used for my good. And I believed that. And so I started writing down topics that I thought I could speak on, and I started with Naaman. And again, that was, I think, my first or second blog, one of them in there, and about, him dipping in the Jordan River 7 times. And I just believed, I just wanted all 7 dips while I was in that jail. I believed it was the Jordan. It was, dirty and yucky and awful. And, I'm not a dirty, yucky person. I like clean things. Yes. So, but then I had fallen in love with Hosea years before, when I read Francine Rivers' Redeeming Love. And just knowing that was me, knowing I was Gomer, and, she keeps returning to prostitution, and she has this man that adores her. And it's showing us, Jesus' love for us. And we keep going back to this sin, or we keep going back to what we think is going to fulfill us, even though we have this perfect husband, right there. And so I've read Hosea many times, and I started reading it in jail. And I get to the second chapter, and I'm reading it in this Message Bible, which I've not really ever read the Message Bible. Mine is New King James, which I love. But so I'm reading, and I get to verse 14 in chapter 2. And here it is. I don't know if you can see it, but it says, this is what it says. It says, to start all over again. That's the heading. And 14 starts out, and it says, and now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start all over again. I'm going to take her back out into the wilderness where we had our first date, and I'll court her. I'll give her bouquets of roses. And here's the kicker. Out of nowhere, it says, I'll turn capital Heartbreak Valley into capital Akers of Hope.
Oh, wow.
My name is Akers. And I have lived in Heartbreak Valley. I mean, that's where I've lived. Now, in my Bible, in my Black Bible, it says, I will give her vineyards from there and the Valley of Anchor as a door of hope. And then it says, she she shall sing there as in the days of her youth. And so it was this big aha moment for me. I mean, I was just like, how, and so
that's where you got the name for your blog.
I did.
That's awesome.
I spell it Akers with a K.
Yeah.
But so that turned into my thing, and so that will be my first book that I wrote. In those months right before I went to jail. I tentatively named that book. It's been edited. We're looking for a publisher. It's not published yet, but tentatively named it Backs Against the Wall. It's a song, an early song from Judahandthelion. It's one they sang when they were in college, talking about when your back's against the wall, you're not alone, and, stand strong and hold on to hope. And so tentatively I've named it that. I feel like long term, several folks, I've had it prophesied over me, and then my agent and some others just feel like the story is in 3 books. It's the before jail book, the kind of 2014 when I got my first DUI, till right before I went to jail. And then the second one will be jail and relapse and just kind of trying to get my feet back under me book. And hallelujah, the third book is the Restoration Redemption book.
Yes.
And so
that's feel what we're waiting on.
Yes, I'm wanting to get through book 2 really badly. I really am. So I can get to book 3. But I feel like, and this is just a new thing, I feel like the trilogy will be called Akers of Hope. And it'll be 1, 2, and 3. And by the time the third one comes, because they're only going to be about 200 pages or so, that they may end up being one book. I don't really know. I don't know. And as I was while I was in jail, I would read. We had my mom. I'm a Joel Osteen fan. He's very encouraging, and I'm a words girl, and so I really, it's so good for me just to have that stuff deep in you. I'm also a
Joyce Meyer for me.
Joyce Meyer too, and I'm a psychology major, and so I've got all these degrees in psychology. And, I know what the Bible says about what we say about ourselves and our tongue, and, how important it is, the words that come out of our mouth, and how we speak life or death, and, how very, very, very important it is. I believe it's one reason my children are so good, is because I always spoke life over them. I never, ever spoke death over them. I never told them they were bad. I never, it was very much on my heart. But it's also, it's not, it's, first and foremost, it's a biblical concept, but even the world acknowledges it, with cognitive, therapy and, oh gosh, I just lost it. It matters what you say.
Right.
And so where was I? I was talking about Joel Osteen. I just lost my train of thought.
Well, you're in recovery right now?
I am in recovery. I've been in recovery for 5 years. I've had a weird change in the last few weeks. I got up with this weird resolve about going to AA. And again, in my first book, I pretty much slam it. There's things I don't like. I don't like having to say I'm an alcoholic every time because, again, the self-fulfilling prophecy, when you say things, that's what you become. When your words are so important, and I don't like that. And I had been in several meetings where they talked bad about God. And I don't know. Anyway, I took the bad parts and picked it out.
Yeah.
And didn't recognize the good. Now, the book I've always loved. I love the book. I love Bill W. I love what it was founded on and those things, but I never took it seriously. But one day, a few weeks ago, I got up and I thought, you know what? I don't know what else to do. I'm not getting better. I had relapsed during COVID. Which of course was set up for addicts to do. I'm certain the devil had a plan there because you can't isolate addicts. I mean, that's just the absolute, or at least certainly me, but that's just because that's what we do anyway when we're in an active addiction. But I just got up and was like, I'm going to go to AA and I'm going to do it. And it's been amazing.
That's great.
It's so weird. and I'm going to have to probably apologize and put in the book too for what I said. And I was always forced to go. I did after rehab, I did sober living twice, and they make you go every single day. And I'm telling you, I resented it and hated it. And I never spoke. I sat there. I never.
Could that be back when you resented it and hated it? Because I didn't ask you about this yet. Have you ever been in denial? Could that have been when you were maybe?
It's not. I mean, yes. Of course, I've been in denial. I have, and again,
because don't they tell you to say that?
To remind yourself.
Yes, to admit.
They do. That's what they say. But denial for me. My ex-husband does not believe it's a disease, like I said earlier. And so I think he felt that if I had more self-control, I could drink normally. And so I think part of me believed that too. I didn't want to be an alcoholic. I didn't want the AA folks to be my people. You know what I mean? I didn't. I mean, they're lovely people, most of them, but I did not. I didn't. It's not that I was saying I didn't have a problem, because I knew I had a problem. That was never a question. Right. So denial, yes, but I don't know. Mostly I just don't like being told what to do. I'm pretty stubborn. And Judah says that in more than one of his songs, and I am, and he's just like me. So it's not like he can say anything, but, and that came out, by the way, right before, I listened to it, I think in November. And he had told me he was going to write the album about these experiences. And my first reaction was, Judah, you are uncovering me. I'm Noah, and I'm drunk, and I'm laying there naked. And, one of the sons covered him up and was blessed, and one of them uncovered him and was cursed. And you are uncovering me, and I'm not cool with it. And he told me, he said, well, if you don't approve, I won't do it. And so he sent it to me. I was sober, at the time. I'd been sober and written the book and all of that. And I cried and I laughed, and it's very, very, very personal, very personal. Mm-hmm. And so I called him and I left that message, which is on Family Best Is Yet to Come on the album. And, it was touching, and it was hard to listen to, because it didn't just speak of him. It spoke of all three children. He talks about his brother and sister a lot in it. And to realize you're the source of somebody's heartbreak is with the people you love more than anybody in the world was, that should have been enough to keep me completely sober. But the thing is, nothing can, right. Until you are internally motivated, it's just not gonna, at least that's what I believe. We'll see, we'll see.
Well, I wanted to ask you too, for those that may be in your shoes or have been in your shoes, or they know somebody that's going through something like this, how, through your circumstances, how could you explain to them whether they know whether they're actually addicted or just somebody that likes to drink?
Well, it talks about that in the big book about Alcoholics Anonymous, about heavy drinkers versus alcoholics. And it's pretty much a fine line. But I think if you find yourself powerless over alcohol, are you controlling the alcohol, or is it controlling you? Can you stop? Can you just stop? If you can just put it down and stop, you're probably not. I mean, if you can just walk away from it and, not do it. But if you cannot, if you're powerless, that's what step 1 says, to admit you're powerless over alcohol and your life is becoming unmanageable. And so is this affecting your life? Do you have friends that are worried about you? Is it out of control? Is it, it's pretty much, are you controlling it, or is it controlling you? Because once it's in control, then it's like the horse is out of the barn, and you're not going to get it back. And it says also in the big book that it's a progressive disease. It does not get better or lesser. It gets more and more. And even, and I had 7 months before I relapsed this time. And I thought I was done. I really did. I thought it was it. And
how does that feel when you went that
terrible.
long? When you
to have that much sobriety?
Yeah, and then realize that you're back.
Well, I think for me, I get to thinking I've got it. I get to, and it's not uncommon, to think you've got this now.
Do you think Satan has anything to do with that?
That's hard to say. I don't know if the devil made me do it. I know it's a disease, and I know God didn't, put it on me. So as far as disease, you
do talk about the devil tells you lies.
Well, he is a liar, and his lies are easy to believe. I do. I talk about the liar on the left and the righteous on the right, and that. I did that a lot in counseling, in school counseling, and of course I didn't word it like that, but I said we all have a little devil, and we all have a little angel, and the Lord is speaking over me constantly, telling me I am worthy and I am loved and I have a purpose and a plan and I will fulfill that, and my latter days will be better than my former days, and the best is yet to come, and that there is hope, and that none of this is wasted. None of this is wasted, but the devil's over there absolutely in my ear screaming, you are not worthy. Look at all you had. You had a husband that loved you. You have parents that loved you. You were never abused. You've got these 3 perfect children. And while my kids were growing up, people were jealous because my kids were so good. I did. I had it good. We had, I had nice cars, and we own a business, and so he's loud in my ear. He was, and he continues to be. Susannah, here you've written all this blog, you've written all this book, and you can't get your feet under you. And but I have a very good friend, Amber, who said, Susannah, it's okay to write from the middle. It's okay to write from the middle. Most books are terrible beginnings and then these fairy tale endings, but you don't get a big chunk of what's going on in the middle, when you're fighting to get to that. Yeah. And so
I've never heard that before. I really like that.
Yeah, I had neither. And so I had quit blogging pretty much. I had quit just because I'm embarrassed. My daughter had said when I got out of jail, she said, Mom, you got out of jail, guns blazing. And I did, because I had a new resolve. I was traumatized, very much traumatized. Still am. Still have quite a bit of trauma. But you know what? God is big, and it's going to be used for his good. I certainly believe I will have a ministry that has to do, with alcohol and with recovery and with, but I've got to get to the other side. I've got to get to the other side. But in the meantime, I've been very much encouraged to write about what's going on now. What is relapse like? What does it feel like? The good thing for me, finally, is I do think, at least to a certain degree, I have let go of the guilt and the shame of it.
That's good.
And accepted that this is part of recovery. And as much as I don't want to relapse, as much as I don't want to be an alcoholic, as much as I don't want all the things, it is part of it. And most people do. Maybe not for 5 years or 10 years or whatever I've been, looking at, but there is an ending point. And I'm really hoping this is it. You're scared to say it is because you've said it was before and then it wasn't. And so I'm reluctant to just say, I feel so good about it, because I do.
So is it true what they say, you're always in recovery?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Forever. Yeah. Just forever. Yeah. And that's overwhelming to me, because I'm a finish line girl. You tell me, if you'll do this, this, and this, at the end, you'll have this. If you go to school hard, you can have 2 degrees in 2 years. And I did. I took way too many hours but I wanted to, just work hard. If you told me, I think I've used this example before. If you could told me there's an empty lot next to me, and if you told me I could go eat all that grass, if I ate it blade by blade, I'd be healed. I would go do that, and I would not quit until I did it. That would be so great, because it'd be over. But this is not. This is never.
No, I love your attitude. I do. You have an awesome attitude. Which brings me to where where is God in all of this? Could you see him working through your addiction? And
oh, yes. Oh, yes. He has given me so much favor and so much. I have never felt abandoned. I've felt so lonely. I've felt so lonely, and that's been a catalyst for the last 3 years. But he never has left me or forsaken me. He has always sent me people. He has always been there. My church is just absolutely, I don't know, it's like heaven. I mean,
it sounds like you have an awesome support group.
I do have a good support, and he's always had somebody there. He opened up this job for me. I was able to go back to school counseling for a year after going to jail. Unbelievable.
So are you able to go back to work after all of this?
Oh, yeah. I went back as a school counselor. Yeah, here in Metro. But,
so you're back to work now?
Well, I'm not going back. No, they've closed my school down permanently. It's closed down. And I had some other issues this year. I relapsed this year.
Okay.
And so, after the first of the year. And so it just wasn't, it's the chapter is over, and I'm back to writing full time. I haven't, anyway, I was supposed to start this week, and it hasn't. I lost my phone, and some things I didn't lose it. I dropped it in the toilet.
Yes. So, I know someone else that dropped theirs in the toilet, and that's one of my fears. Instead of putting it in your back pocket.
Yeah, it happens. But my agent, David and Chance, they're Chase, they're awesome. I speak to David more, and they're very encouraging, and really just kind of taking me in. It was kind of a strange God thing, that I met them and they like my book and that they're promoting it, and very encouraging, just loving people. Prayed with me, and I'm just, it's time for me to write. It's time for me. I really want to get through this second book because I want to get to the third book. The third book is very important to me. And I started, this is what I was going to say earlier that I forgot. I started when we were in jail. My mom, I was saying I love Joel Osteen, and my mom brought some Joel Osteen books and gave them, to the jail, but they won't give them to me. They put them on a book cart or put them in the room where they keep our limited amount of books. And you can't get them. So this inmate stole one out of the library thing when we had church one night. She stole it, and it was a devotion book that my mom had given, and it was awesome. Oh my goodness, it was so encouraging, and it was. Oh gosh, it was so great. It was so great to just have those words, because he's so good about speaking over you, the promises that the Lord has told you. And I have many, many, many of them, I have many of them about the best being yet to come, and that these are not, how it is now is not how it's going to be. And my latter days will be better than my former days. And I'm going to know more happiness. I'm not danced my last dance. I've not laughed my last laugh. And, just so much hope for the future. And I've always had that. I've always believed that. But so I was reading it one day, and one of the things, one of the devotions was like, it's really important to be thankful. And that is true. And that's, and I did that even in jail, would write down a thankful list about, I've got healthy kids and grandkids, and I've got my health, and goodness knows I don't deserve to have my health, but I do. And anyway, he was saying, just dinner with your family, or looking at the stars, or, being just grateful. And I thought, Joel Osteen, dude, you could tell me I'm going to have a $7 million house in the Hamptons, and that would be just as attainable to me right now as looking at the stars. I mean, that is so, you couldn't see anything. And so I started writing first of all, I started writing a Bible study for inmates and families of inmates. And that's kind of, I've got that started. I started that in jail. I've got I brought it over here. This is what kept all my stuff. This is my calendar, and it's my little folder, and it's got all my stuff in it. I don't know if you can see, but
I see.
Where I started. Anyway, I started writing a Bible study, and I started writing a devotional, Because it's a little bit different. What you're thankful for in jail is a little bit different than what you're thankful for when you're not in jail, you know.
Well, you mentioned something like that in your blog about confinement
and contentment.
And contentment, yes.
Well, because I was not content in jail. And I want to tell you, I wanted to be. And I knew I wasn't. I knew I wasn't. I prayed to be. I wanted to be like Paul. I wanted to be content in jail. And I accepted it, and I knew I was going to be okay. But I don't think I was ever really content. I mean, maybe a little bit. And so I had someone say, someone in a jail ministry say, well, now with the pandemic and, you know, the stay-at-home order, we can understand what it's like to be in jail. And no. Because you have an actual bed and not a green mattress that's that thick that your face sticks to because you've only got one sheet that's not fitted, that you have to tie underneath with, you know, strips of sheets. You have an actual pillow. You've got your family with you more than likely. You have more than a ratty blanket with holes in it. You know, you don't have to wear orange all day long. You don't have to eat bologna sandwiches at 5 o'clock and that's all you get. You know, there's so much, you know,
yes, I know.
I mean, I couldn't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, I had spent a night in jail with all three DUIs. I had to spend a night each time. And that was traumatic, but you could choose not to take a shower. You could choose not to eat so you don't have to go to the bathroom in front of everybody. But when you're in there for 141 days, dude, you
have to do it.
Get over it. And and it's nasty and gross and awful. And I mean, the toilets are wide open. You can sit on the toilet and see the TV across the room. It is not a happy, good place. It's not. But thankfully for me, you know, the result is honestly, in a weird way, a blessing. You know, my agents were like, you know, we hate that this happened to you. And, you know, this is awful and tragic. But honestly, it makes for a better story. I mean, it just does. And, you know, so when I got out of jail, I just decided to just put it out there, just do it. Because I had my website is called SusannahAkers.com instead of AkersofHope.com, because I wanted, when people search for Susannah Akers, for my mugshots not to be the first thing to come up. And then, you know what? And they said, no, my agents were like, nah, we like the mugshots there. You know, it's real. And so I just kind of decided to own it. And as you know, from reading my blog, I posted all of them. And especially there's one that's just completely horrible. It's I call it my Mel Gibson mugshot, you know, that one awful one of him. And it's embarrassing, and it's, you know, it's all the things, but with everything in me, I believe it's what's going to catapult what I believe will be my ministry.
To recover and get through it, you have to own it, right?
Well, and I'm not the only one, right. You know, I was the only one in there, you know, with the education that I have and the job, you know, I was those things, but I'm no different. I'm no different than any of those. And I was in there with mostly meth addicts and drug traffickers, and I slept right next to a murderer. And it was, they could not believe, no one in there could believe the sentence I got for what I did, for a public intox, which they pretty much don't even charge people with. And it landed me, you know, 141 days in jail. So, you know, but
you think that's the way it was supposed to be?
Of course. Yeah. Of course. I just think it's that belly of the whale thing. You know, I think, you know, you don't want to be in the belly of the whale. Jonah didn't want to be in the belly of the whale, but the belly of the whale is his story. Yeah. You know, the belly of the whale is his story. And he did get, you know, I think a lot about that too, about Jonah, because I do think, you know, it relates to my story. But, you know, when the whale barfed him up, I mean, you have to think about that for a minute. He was on dry ground, so I assume it was sand. And, you know, so he's got whale guts and sand all over him. So he doesn't come out of there completely clean.
Yeah, he's not clean.
It's not like he got thrown up out of the well, and now everything is good. I mean, he had to clean up. He had to,
go through the motions.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. So, so I've learned to just take it easy on myself. But I never want to be a victim or act like it's an excuse.
Right.
It's hard not to get into self-pity and why me, and and what's ironic, I had people ask me to write a book. Judah has been on me to write a book forever, but I had people ask me before any of this happened, before the separation, before anything. And I'm like, I don't even have a story. What would I write a book about? And there's, about raising children and, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I just didn't feel like I have it in me. But something Joel Osteen says is, if you have something that keeps coming up, a dream or a vision or something that you believe, is God, it is God. And if you've had it on your heart to write a book, go write the book. And basically Judah had said to me, my mom actually just published her second book.
Really?
Yeah, she's amazing. Her first book is called Are We There Yet? And it's a journey into the presence of God. And it was published several years ago. And this new one is on Song of Solomon. And so
are those on like Amazon?
They are. They both are. Sarah
I'll
Ramsey.
look those up and I'll buy them.
Sarah Ramsey. Yeah, they're very deep spiritually. I mean, she's a very deep spiritual person. She's awesome. But Judah said, Mom, I'm a writer. Nan's a writer. I know you're a writer. You've got to do this. And so, and writing is not, it sounds like it would be an easy thing. It sounds like, ooh, I'm a writer.
Right.
And it's not. It's not, it's work. And it's even though I don't have to do a lot of research and I don't have to do, even if mine's just kind of a memoir or whatever, it's still,
it's hard to see what you write sometimes and face it.
It's work. Yeah, it's work. I would go to the coffee shop and I would sit there literally at Starbucks for 30 minutes and I would type, and everything would just kind of come out easily. And then I would hit a brick wall almost every single day. And I would feel the Holy Spirit tell me, push through. You've got to push on through. And I would literally start, this is true story. I would literally start writing and almost like wake up 3 hours later. And I would have all these words and I would go back and read them and not really even remember writing them. That's just the truth of it for me.
Yes,
that's how it happened for me.
Yeah.
Well, it just started coming out of me. And I'm hoping, that's what happens this time. A lot of what I've written in the blog will be in the second book, and maybe verbatim. I don't know. I may take some of it exactly out. I'm going to try to get more aggressive with the blog and at least get one out every couple of weeks. Now that I'm not working, when I started school, I kind of slowed down a lot, and then I had this relapse, and I'm certainly not writing during a relapse. So,
right.
But I'm ready to go back at it, and my friends are really encouraging me. So.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your story. Definitely is very hard, but you are very encouraging.
Thank you.
I'm really inspired by talking to you today, so thank you.
Well, you're really sweet for having me on.
So, did you mention your blog? Where can we find your blog?
SusannahAkers.com, and then you go to the Akers of Hope. And something, we're going to redo my page. I've got a wonderful friend. Her name's Miranda, and I actually met her through Judahandthelion. She did merch for them early on, their very, very early days, and we became really good friends, and we're concert buddies now, and she's just a dear, dear friend, and she's young, and so she's helped me with my website and with my blog, and when you go to my blog, the most recent one shows up first, and it's more beneficial if you start at the first one and move through.
Read up.
The first couple talk a lot about my jail experience. Drunk Susannah was probably one of my favorites because I think that's really how I feel. So it's. But I'm hopefully we're going to get a new format for it and set it up differently. I don't like that you kind of have to scroll through all of them to go back to the
I'm waiting for your next post, so I'll be looking for that.
Did you read the most recent one? I did not advertise it about Know Your Enemy.
Yes.
My last one. Okay. That was my last
I actually had a question on here and we didn't get to that one. I was going to ask, let's see, let me look. I'd read somewhere on your blog that you said perspective is everything.
Yeah.
And then you began to ask yourself questions like, am I living for love or for fear? Is my empty nest or my loneliness or your guilt or shame or your fear, is that your enemy? And you answered.
Fear is the enemy. Fear, for me, and I've always believed this, everything is fear-based. I mean, everything that we deal with that's yucky is fear-based. I mean, it just is. Rejection, anxiety, depression. For me, everything I fight is fear. And so being lonely, fear. And so alcohol is not the problem. It was my solution. Alcohol is my medicine. So in reality, the enemy is fear. It's the devil, because God has not given us a spirit of fear. But I love it because it says he's given us a spirit of power, love, and he's given us power, love, and a sound mind. So and I could talk all day about this, if fear is a spirit, then those other things are spirits too. And the difference between it being a spirit and just being a thing or whatever is a spirit comes in and takes hold of you. And if you live in fear, love and faith can't exist with fear. They really can't. Right. Because, where he says he's not given a spirit of fear, but of power. That means I have power. And that means I can have power over this. Even though I'm powerless over alcohol, I can take power back and walk in love toward myself, first of all. I mean, of course, towards Jesus, but I have to love myself. And that's a hard thing. That's a hard thing when you've walked this yucky stuff out. And, but, the Bible says to love your neighbor as yourself. And I just do not believe you can love your neighbor if you don't love yourself. Not really. And so, learning to do that and doing that is, I don't know if I say this. I think I say this in my first book, but I was having such a hard time forgiving myself early on, back in 2015 when I got the DUIs, and there was a wreck involved and a child was involved, and it was terrible, and it was just awful, and I just could not forgive myself. And I was praying about it one night at one of the rehabs. I think it was the second rehab I was at in Dallas. And I was like, Lord, I just can't. I cannot forgive myself. I don't know what to do. And he said to me in my spirit, you are so arrogant. You are so arrogant. Who are you that you can't forgive yourself? What else is it you would have me do? What would you have me do? I gave my son. He shed his blood to forgive you. What more can I do? For you to say that I forgive you and I'm God of the universe. Give me a break. Forgive yourself. It was pretty much like that. I mean, it was pretty much a little smack on the hand. You think too highly of yourself, and it was true because I knew the Bible. I knew Jesus. I've been baptized. I was saved when I was 5, and I really believe I was. And I knew better. And he's like, you just cannot be that way. You can't. And so it was a real, and it took a while. But I have, and then some people think if you forgive yourself, then you're making light of it. You're not taking it serious and you're not owning it. Maybe, that maybe you should live, in sackcloth and not wear makeup and, beat yourself up for the rest of your life. And I have come to believe, and I've known all my life, that that's just not how it is. Mm-hmm. And if it was, I'd be going straight to hell anyway. If I had to earn my way into heaven, I would have given up a long time ago. But the love of God and the forgiveness and just the love of Jesus and the love of, when he looks at me, he doesn't see yesterday. He sees the blood of Jesus. When he looks at me, he sees me white as snow and doesn't remember.
If we could only do that with ourselves.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So,
well, this has been an awesome conversation.
Well,
thank you so much. And I look forward to your first book coming out so I can buy it and read it. And then you say you're working on your second one now?
I'm starting, yes.
And you're hoping for a third one. And I am really waiting on that third one because by then...
The third one's the big one. The third one's the second one is going to be interesting because it's going to be all about jail. And, most people, none of my friends have ever been in jail. I know some people kind of live in that environment and, understand it way more than me and have been there a lot longer than me and suffered way more than I ever suffered. But yeah, so the second one's going to be the jail book. And then, yes, I'm looking very much forward to the third one because it's going to be the restoration book, whatever that's going to look like.
That'd be great.
I'm super excited.
So I'm hoping you'll come back.
Well, I will. Thank you.
Thank you
for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now you're on Instagram, right?
I am Susannah Akers. I think it's Susannah_Akers, and then Akers of Hope is on there as well.
Okay.
They are both public.
And so what's going on with Judah and the Lion right now? Are they just waiting to get out?
They just released the most beautiful song. Oh, my goodness. It's called Beautiful Anyway. And I heard actually on Sirius XM yesterday that Judah wrote that for Nate, that Nate Nate is the banjo player, and that he had struggled with some, just some hard times, and that Judah wrote that for him. And it's just,
that's great.
It's a beautiful song about, just depression and being sad and coming out of it. And so I know they're writing and doing. Thankfully, they had just come off tour. They had. I
went and saw them on that tour. So I'm glad I got to see them before all this happened. So.
Well, and they ironically wrote the theme song to the Nashville Soccer Club for their team, and got to play in front of that 60,000 people at the first game, like 2 weeks before the shutdown. So they were, they were that was really good. And so I do think they had planned to go out with somebody, but obviously that didn't happen. But Judah has started his own little kind of funky. I don't know if it's a band or I don't know what you call it, but it's called Pink Laundry, and they actually released a new song today called Thumbs Up. And so it's fun. I know he's staying busy. He's not the type to sit around and do nothing, but I don't know what to expect from the band, And
then your daughter, she has a blog.
She has a blog that is amazing. It's called The Little Williams. She sells leather bows and just really cute things for little girls, just adorable little leather bows. And but her blog is very, very inspirational. It's I think she is definitely a writer. I think she's got books in her. But she writes about the mommy stuff, and she's got 3 babies now. Well, they're 4 to 1, and I'm so proud of her. It's so, I don't know how she does it, but yes, it's definitely worth a read for sure.
Yes, I'm following it. You have such a creative family. Also,
well, thank you. I do, but I appreciate it. Yeah, they're the best. They really are. They make me look better than I am. That's for sure. They do. Yeah.
Well, again, I appreciate you coming on, and
thank you so much.
I hope to see you again sometime. And I'm here in Tennessee too, so maybe we can always hook up sometime.
I would love that. That would be amazing. Thanks so much, Laura.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Well, that is the conclusion of today's Tuesday Talk, and I truly appreciate Susannah coming on and sharing her hard story. I did want to mention she belongs to the Belonging Co-Church in Nashville, where she resides. And, it's very encouraging to see someone like her and many like her that are able to open up and be so transparent in sharing their struggle. And I appreciate also all of her wealth of wisdom. And my prayers are with her and her family for the success of her second and third book that she's looking forward to doing, because that would be the book of her restoration. So, Susannah, again, thank you so much. And the last thing I want to do on here is definitely, I got to do a plug for Judah and the Lion, because I love their music. But not only that, this song that I'm about to play, Judah wrote, and he wrote it about his mother. And Susannah is actually in it. And it's on, well, Judah and the Lion they're an American alternative band. And their album that they had out last year is called Pep Talks. And it has 17 songs on it, which is a collection of the heartache and trauma that he turned into an authentic inspiration of hope. And the last song on the album is called Family, the Best Is Yet to Come. And it features his mother, Susannah, and it features her as she responds to him after she's listened to the album before he's released it. And you will be able to hear her recorded voice on that, and just take a listen to the song. It is just absolutely beautiful. So I want to leave that with you, and I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you come back next Tuesday. Bye-bye.
Hey, listen, I just got finished listening to the album, and I cried a little, I laughed a little, but Judah, I love it, and I think it's real and raw, and I think you did the right thing, and I think it not only may bring, help and hope to a lot of others. I think it gave me a lot of hope, and anyway, I loved it.
I guess you're just broken. I guess you're just hoping for more. I guess you're just reaching. I guess you're just in need of love. But you're not alone. You're not alone in this. I guess I'm just broken. I guess I'm just hoping for more. I guess I'm just reaching. I guess I'm just in need of love. But I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this. I'm not alone. I'm not alone in this.
I just wanted to call and tell you I'm proud of you. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry to put you through all that. I do. I hate it. But I think it's real, and I think it's wrong. And I think it's, I think it's precious. And I love it. And I'm so proud of you. I'm glad you're my son. So I'm glad you're real and can. I don't know. I just love you, and I thank you. Thank you.